time is racing ahead. How is Rise Up for Abortion Rights going to prepare for the kind of struggle that you were calling for, of millions of people in the street, bringing things to a halt to stop the Supreme Court from overturning Roe versus Wade?
Well, I think it's very important what this movement has accomplished, the stand we have put forward, the awareness we have brought to this question, the fury, as I spoke about, of the young women and girls and others that has been brought forward in this movement. But it has to go to a whole other level right now. And as you say, time is ticking. So this is a moment. This really is a moment for people who care about the future to search their souls and their conscience and find the ways to act with the greatest impact that will command and electrify the national attention. Find ways to act with boldness, with daring, non-violently, but really putting it on the line and modeling the kind of determined refusal to let society go forward as women's rights are ripped away from them and history is hurled backwards. So this is a time, really, we've used the quote from Mario Savio, the student leader in the free speech movement from Berkeley, that he delivered in 1964. We've used it on this show before, but I think it has great pertinence right now. There is a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even tacitly take part. And you've got to put your body upon the gears, the levers, and the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who own it, the people who run it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. And people have to find the ways to manifest this orientation in ways that cannot be ignored, that have to command the attention of the whole country and inspire and call forward that kind of daring and courage and mass nonviolent acts of courage and defiance and resistance nationwide in very short order.
This is something that we have to break out into society in a very compressed time period. And there are ways to do that. I think I agree exactly with what you said and have thought a lot about that quote from Mario Savio. We have to find the places where the attention of society is focused and actually get into that space and in determined ways put out the call to the millions of people who are concerned about this, worried about this, and the millions of other people who it hasn't quite yet hit. So we have to bring to them just how odious this is going to be and the need to act now. And those who have come forward, the thousands who have come forward so far, need to put their creativity and their courage and their conviction on the line so that millions of people over the next couple of weeks start getting out in the street week after week. So Sunsara, at the summit, there were plans that were made. I wonder if you could give our audience a sense of the basic plans that people agreed to carry forward.
Yeah, so at this summit, we had the presentations, you saw some of them, but then people got into breakouts and really workshopped ideas. How do we take this fight forward? And so the students and youth are finding the ways to continue where the campuses are still in session, the walkouts that they've done with green. And this weekend, there are plans across the country, and everybody should take part in this, to get out and green up and really have contingents of people, gatherings of people, whatever size, as big as possible, but any size, slather themselves in green and go out to where there's nightlife, where there's clubs, where there's outside dining, where there's bars, where there's music, and going through with the green and confronting people, letting people know what it's about, spreading the green to them, getting them to put it on their social media, challenging people. Are you going to stand with this or stand aside? This green needs to become known everywhere. And then on Monday, June 6th, there's a plan for disruptive die-ins. Overturn Roe over our dead bodies. Disruptive die-ins. And there was brainstorming of all kinds of ways that this could happen, that could gum up the workings, disrupt the business as usual. And just people could be very creative with this. Nonviolent disruptive die-ins that are part of bringing the gears of society to a halt and calling forward others in many different ways. And beyond this, I have to say, we will be posting more at the riseupfораbortionrights.org website. And people need to get creative, and people need to be daring, and people need to be bold, and people need to think about The lives that are at stake, the future that is at stake, the sacrifice that will come of millions of women and girls, and the suffocation that this will put over society if this is allowed to be overturned. Abortion rights are allowed to be ripped away. And people have to find the ways non-violently to put it on the line and take the necessary risk and act with the necessary courage and boldness to force this question and the need for everybody to act to stop it in front of the eyes of the world. And this is a time for that kind of courage and daring. And so I want to end, yes, with the particular plans that came out, but also the invitation and the challenge to all of us that these are part of the picture, but we need a lot more, and everybody needs to be part of carrying this forward very urgently.
Well, that is an extremely important message, Sunsara. And, people might ask the question, why have we devoted so much attention to this and so much of the show to this? Because, as you've put it in your speech, and in previous speeches, and in all the segments we've done, this is going to shape the future for half of humanity, and reality, because it does contain half of humanity and many other people who are impacted by this. It actually impacts the whole society, and whether or not there's going to be a movement of people fighting for the interests of humanity, or whether or not we're going to capitulate to a really horrible future. In 2018, Bob Avakian, the revolutionary leader, gave an awesome speech titled, "Why We Need an Actual Revolution and How We Can Really Make Revolution." So next we're going to play an excerpt from one question during the Q&A that followed the speech in one city with Bob Avakian. And the question that was asked was about how do we build up the fighting spirit of people against the fascist regime. Bob Avakian's answer in 2018 remains highly relevant and provides crucial guidance to the struggle that is urgently needed right now to stop the Supreme Court from taking away the right to abortion and beating back this fascist assault on women.
Well, I think one of the things about, any serious movement, and certainly a revolutionary movement, is it has to be very bold. Nobody's going to be attracted to something, if you're saying that you want to change the whole world, you want to go up against the whole system, but you come off as if you're, kind of conservative. it's not going to really come across to people as real. If you, in other words, by conservative, I mean if you're kind of like always playing by the rules and, always playing it close to the vest. Now, let me be clear. We should not be reckless. I talked about the fact that there's going to be sacrifice, but we should really not have unnecessary losses and sacrifices. But you do have to take risks to change the world, and certainly you have to take risks to make a revolution. And you do have to be bold if you want to capture the imagination of people, even people, as you were saying, in the coming from the middle classes, let alone people who are catching hell every day. You got to be bold, and we have to find ways to be out there really being bold. And I think I think this is great. This incivility that's going on. All this talk about civility. Well, yes, it's true. History has proven over and over again that if you're very civil toward fascists and you don't do anything to upset or anger them, they won't do anything bad. History has proven that over and over again, right? No. They're going to do what they're going to do, and they're only too happy to have you roll over and play dead and be civil with them so that they can keep right on doing what they're doing with less obstacles in the way. So the people who understand that now need to be very bold, not only in getting that message out, but without being reckless, also be very bold and act in what they do, in their actions. What you do as well as what you say has to be consistent with what you recognize and what you say the actual risks and stakes are of this situation. That's my point about coming off conservative, is if you're conservative. If you say things are very extreme, the dangers are very great, the risks are very high, but then you act as if that's not the case, then there's even less chance people are going to take you seriously. So you have to, in everything we do, we have to challenge people, not stupidly, not in a, in an infantile manner, not in a way that, just sort of needlessly and gratuitously insults people, but in a way that challenges them, in a way that both challenges and provokes and inspires them. And that goes for everything. That goes for building this mass movement to drive out this regime through nonviolent but sustained massive protest. And it goes for the whole revolution and building that revolution. You have to be acting in a way that's consistent with what you say the problem and the solution is, and not in a way that contradicts it and makes people think that you don't really believe it. So I think there needs to be a lot more of, a lot of times small things can contribute to big things eventually happening or happening even soon. It's not just one little thing adds up, but sometimes even smaller scale things can lead to this, geometric or whatever you want to call it, exponential growth where things grow by leaps and bounds because people get provoked and inspired, and all of a sudden the dam breaks. What we need to be working for is the dam to break. There are tens of millions of people who are really upset and angry about this, and they do come out, they came out around the immigrant children, they do come out around different things, but the dam hasn't broken to where they say, to hell with playing by the rules here, and to hell with listening to the Democratic Party insist that we have to play by the rules and be civil. We've got to take to the streets. The ways have to be found to both challenge and provoke as well as inspire them to actually act on that and keep going at it in different ways until that dam breaks and they do actually bring their own actions in line with with their sentiments, which has not yet happened.